Howdy everyone, this is Rowan with WZKD Games, and today I'm doing a deck tech on my very favorite card in Magic, Niv-Mizzet Parun. So Niv-Mizzet Parun, don't know, infamous 15,000-year-old dragon wizard. It's 3 blue and 3 red, and has been a staple of cEDH since he was first printed. However, since the banning of Dockside and Jeweled Lotus about 1.5 years ago, Niv-Mizzet has kind of fallen off the map, and it's only through a couple of very dedicated, innovative pilots who kind of stuck to their guns and found ways to make Niv relevant again that we have today's list. And here in February 2026, Niv is on the rise, showing up in top 16s again. I personally have had a lot of tournament success. I'm very excited to share a kind of deeply underrated and kind of forgotten contender in cEDH. So let's dive in. So if you don't know what Niv does, kind of helps to read the card bottom to top as you're learning the card, because this is the order of triggers most. Start at the bottom is second trigger to build. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. Any player. cEDH is filled with instants and sorceries, filled with interaction and tutors and powerful spells. So Niv is just right off the bat going to be a very powerful engine, even second line of defense. We go up. Whenever you draw a card, Niv-Mizzet Parun deals 1 damage to target. So this means that Niv is both a card advantage engine and spot removal. There's a reason that he is so difficult to cast and hit. Kind of infamously, Niv combos with any curiosity effect, which says, whenever enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. So when Niv draws a card, you deal a damage. Deal a damage, if curiosity is attached to draw a card. This creates a loop that you can just repeat over and over until all of your opponents are dead. Other curiosity effect we run in the deck is Obsidian Eye. Essentially the same thing, but 3 mana and can be cast at flash, which is extremely important. Probably makes it better than Cure. So these are our 2 1-card win cons. There are a couple of other ones in Magic. The one that is, or the third most common one, is Tandem Lookout, which is not a card that I'm currently on. It's kind of the weakest version. Sorcery speed. It dies to Bowmasters. So yeah, a lot of Niv pilots have always run it. I'm personally not on it. Those are our 2 1-card wins, Niv. And essentially the whole deck revolves around the big dragon. This is heavy control. One of the last real control decks in cEDH, and in my opinion, the best. If you can get Niv down in a timely fashion, then you can just control the game by wiping out any irrelevant creatures, by dealing damage directly to face, gaining massive card advantage from your opponent's casting spells into Niv. Yeah, Niv kind of does it all. And so you'll see that a lot of this build, if not the whole build, focuses almost exclusively around getting Niv out in timely fashion, which right now means turn 3 if possible. Very often it's turn 4, but we're aiming for like a turn 2 or turn 3 Niv if possible. And then protecting him long enough to draw into one of our combos or into one of our doublers, which are Harmonic Prodigy and Roaming Throne. Brand new, just about to be released this week, spoiled Irma, second Niv. And any of these 3 creatures, you can often just win the game without ever actually having hard comp. With the Niv trigger doubler, you get both triggers double. So if someone casts an instant or sorcery, you draw 2 cards, which puts 2 kings on the stack for every card you drew. So if you have a Roaming Throne or a Harmonic Prodigy out, then For every instant or sorcery you cast, you end up drawing 2 cards. So, that said, let's kind of dive into a few different aspects of this. First off, let's talk a little bit about casting. So, on Dockside and Jeweled Lotus, which were by far and away the 2 best cards to cast Niv, and everyone kind of said, well, Niv is dead. There's no way to cast Niv in a timely manner now. Those 2 cards were the main engine, and so at least from a competitive standpoint in a tournament cEDH, dead. But there were 2 specific pilots, Jordan and Glacial Anthony, who kind of set about almost immediately after the bans, trying to come up with a new plan to get Niv-Mizzet out. And this revolves around kind of 2 ideas that take the place of Jeweled Lotus and Dock. Can't replace them directly, so we try and replace them in the aggregate. First plan is Lotus Bloom, or a poor man's Jeweled Lotuses. Lotus Bloom says sacrifice Lotus Bloom, add 3 mana of any 1 color to your mana pool, but it has suspend 3. So our first package to getting Niv out revolves around cheating in Lotus. Way that we do this, our main 3 ways, or main 4 ways of doing this are 2 sorceries, Transmute Artifact, and Reshape, which get Lotus Bloom into play for 2 blue if you have an artifact to sack to them. 1 creature, Generous Plunderer, it entombs Lotus Bloom, and then pay a red and tap sack. An artifact, return it to the battlefield. And our 3rd way is instant War of Invention. A 3 blue, put Lotus Bloom directly into play. So any one of these 4 paths leads to very often either a turn 2 or a turn 3 Lotus Bloom. And the second half of our ramp package nicely supports the first, which is creating artifacts to make sure that Transmute and Reshape and Goblin Engineer always online. Whir is good because you can hold up mana for interaction on, say, turn 2 or turn 3, and then rip this on end step. We also have a lot of a brewer's advantage this plan over the last year, I've found. A lot of people have no clue how we're getting out. And so people think that we're just going and getting like a Soul Ring or a Mana Vault or a Lotus Petal or something. But yeah, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, Transmute and Shape. And we're all finding Lotus Bloom so that we are halfway to cap. We have a few artifacts that are easily transmutable. For example, Mox Opal, not always turned on in this list. We're only on 9 artifacts plus our treasure make. But it's a free way to make sure that you can transmute. Now, let's talk about the other half of the ramp package. Mostly red dorks. These are Ragavan, Ashling, Generous Plunderer, Reckless Barbarian, Scuzzback Scrounge. So, first glance, these do not seem like CD. Scuzzback Scrounger says, beginning your first main phase, made Blight 1 if you do. Generous Plunderer says, beginning your upkeep, you make treasure if you opponent makes. Ragavan, Curse of Opulence makes gold when an enchanted plane is attacked. None of these on their own are all that strong, but they have one significant upside in our deck, which is making minimum of 1 mana per turn to cast Niv. So a lot of people ask this list, why are we not running Arcane Signet and Felwar Stone and Izzet Talisman? And this is because you can't store mana with any of these rocks. Niv needs so much mana and so much colored mana to be able to cast that a card like a Generous Plunderer or a Scuzzback Scrounger that makes 2 treasures over 2 turns is always going to be preferred over a card like Arcane Signet or Felwar Stone, because you're able to accumulate mana as time goes on. Only getting 1 mana forever on any one given turn off an Arcane Signet just basically does not make the cut for casting Niv. So we have these treasure makers that are accumulating at least 1 treasure per turn. And then similarly, Reckless Barbarian, pay 2, sacks for 2 red on a later turn. You've essentially stored 2 Niv mana. Similar card to Pentad Prism, where Sunburst 2, you add 2 mana on a later turn. And then kind of similarly to the red dorks that are making a treasure, Noble's Purse is a card you'll never see in any other cEDH list. 3, make a treasure each turn. This all adds up so that you are either casting a turn 3 Niv-Mizzet or a turn 4 Niv with mana up. Similarly, you'll see that we're not on Mana Vault, we're not on Ancient Tomb, City of Traders, Grim Monolith. None of these make colored mana, so they're essentially useless in the list because the list needs to cast the big dragon kind of at any cost to play the game. Okay. Another really good ramp piece, surprisingly good, is Vault 21 House Gambit. Saga, the first 2 steps say discard a card and then draw a card. The 3rd step says reveal up to 5 non-land cards from your hand. For each of those cards that has the same mana value as another card revealed this way, create a treasure token. So this entire list basically is 1-drop spells, 2-drop spells. That's it. The curve is insanely low. So by the time this reaches the 3rd step, it is extremely easy to reveal 3 2-drops and 2 2-drops, or 3 1-drops and 2 2-drops, and make 5 treasures, or 4 1-drops and 1 2. The discard draw on the first 2 steps also kind of helps you sift through your hand and make sure that you're making those treasures. It's kind of like a very bad dockside if you squint a lot. But it's pretty castable on turn 1. It's always castable on turn 2. And then even if it's cast on turn 2, it's going off on turn 4 with at least 3 or 4 treasures. And so you're going to be able to cast Niv with mana. So this is another kind of great way to make sure that you're ramping into. Yeah, so the combination of mana accelerators and then ways to cheat Lotus Bloom into play kind of are 2 ways to get Niv out. And fortunately, they have a lot of synergies in between them. If you are really interested in getting into Niv and playing it competitively, I definitely recommend coming and reading the primer that I wrote on Niv. I literally talk about every single card in the deck list, and I talk a lot about the kind of various synergies that occur between various ramp pieces that just kind of help accelerate us into Niv. So yeah, that's kind of the path forwards to Niv. Once Niv is out, all we want to do is survive. Literally just need to not lose. So playing Control in cEDH means a lot of politicking, a lot of talking, a lot of trying to play down your hand, and a lot of interaction. We're on 38 instants. I would say any Niv list needs to be on about a minimum of 35 because once Niv is out, you need to draw into interaction as much as possible. Any free spell. Oftentimes, it doesn't even really matter what the spell you draw is. Something like a Gut Shot, a Mog Salvage, a Pyrokinesis. You just need to keep triggering Niv, keep digging, keep wiping the board, and making sure that you're drawing into protection for Niv. So let's talk a little bit about the interaction package. See if we enable tags. Right now, I'm on 37 total pieces of interaction, of which 25 spells are either counter spells or stack interaction, and another 8 are creature spot removal, and I have some non-land removal as well. But let's just go ahead and talk about them maybe from most mana to least mana. So we start down here at the bottom with Sink into Stupor. It's just a nice MDFC. Blue is important in the deck. But this is a live spell every once in a while. It hits any non-land permanent on an opponent or a spell. So you can put a Hullbreaker Horror or a Cavern of Souls Grand Abolisher back into somebody's hand with this. It does come up. It's an awesome little card. Narset's Reversal kind of goes on and off the chopping block for me. It's the only 2 mana interaction in the deck. Everything else is literally 1 mana or less because, yeah, we're a draw-go control deck, so there's a premium on spending mana and keeping it up to make sure that you can keep casting spells and keep digging with Niv. Narset's, it's peak ad nauseum, obviously. If you play in a Rogside meta or a Turbo meta, this can kind of save the game early if you have 2 mana up on turn 2 or turn 3. It can also kind of later in the game maybe steal Tutor, or sometimes it even just steals a piece of cast interaction that somebody doesn't have the mana to replay. Yeah, I would like to cut it. I would say it sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. 2 mana feels a little tricky. I've swapped it in and out for Trick Bind at times too. It's just a kind of an awesome card, although Narset's Disrupting Shoal is an absolute MVP in this deck. Because our curve is a lot of 1 and 2, and most of the cards in the deck are blue. Let's see what our 64% of all symbols versus 36. A lot of the deck is blue. It's almost always live. A hard counter spell. Yeah, hitting Voice of Victories and Grand Abolishers off 2 mana is really important. It'll almost always be live on 1, so you can hit someone else's Swan Song, Vamp Tutor, Consult, Dark Rit, you name it. This should definitely be tagged as free, but it's an awesome card. Swan Song, obviously a staple. Stubborn Denial is one of my very favorite cards in the deck. It's a card that basically only Niv gets to run in CEDH, so 1 mana Fierce if Niv is out, and it also kind of importantly can be or spike even without out. Stifle is incredible. We get a lot of Talon Gates coming at us. Yeah, it kind of does everything in CEDH. Stifle Athasas is obviously the famous scenario, but yep, pretty much all Niv pilots are in Stifle at this point. Very versatile. Spell Snare is a kind of newer addition, although it was in the list for a long time pre-Dockside ban, obviously. With a lot of 2 mana creatures running around, especially the silence creatures, this is an important one. It also hits the 2 biggest win cons in the game, passes and reach. Redirect Lightning is an awesome addition that is, yeah, just another pure swap for 1 mana. And yeah, really important and great addition. Red Elemental and Pyroblast are both great cards. Auto includes Blow Up Heuristic if you have to, counters the Oracle, counters blue commanders, stuff like that. Often protects Niv. When someone's trying to remove it, you counter it, and then someone puts another blue spell on. Nyx is a cute spell, but it's actually pretty important. Counters all the pre-counter magic that is thrown at us as people are trying to bounce the large dragon. Yeah, it just puts in work. People don't expect it. Countering an LED is an awesome feeling. Yeah, a very, very important card of this. And they're one of those 1 mana spells that just kind of keeps us going, can be really important on turn 4 or 5 after Niv is out to keep. Mystical Tutor, obviously very important, gets any interaction in the deck. Also gets our only unconditional tutor in the deck and Gamble. Can be important to go find Force of Will or Fluster and MBT. Hold priority on your Niv trigger to make sure that you can crack it. Yeah, great card, best tutor in the list. Floodmaw, another auto include for a control deck. Bounces the One Ring and pesky creatures before Niv is out to shoot them. Yeah, very versatile. Bounces a value, Voice of Victory, stuff like that. Flusterstorm, obviously one of the top 5 or 6 counter spells in the game. Firestorm, one of my very favorite cards in the list. Says choose and discard X cards. Firestorm deals X damage to each of X target creatures and or players. So this is actually kind of one of the ways that we can win the game if we are not comboing with Curiosity or don't have enough cards left in the deck to combo. There's a lot of Thrasios X decks and Kinnan decks running around at the moment, and so you have 3 opponents and a total of 15 or 20 creatures. That's 18 damage to each one of them. Half their life is gone. This is a good kind of finishing card. Once you have a bunch of cards in hand and you've comboed off Curiosity, but if you don't have enough cards in the deck, also just a great board wipe even outside of combo. If you just have been controlling the game for a while, someone still has a bunch of creatures, and you just need to wipe everything. You often will have 15 or 20 cards. Dispel, yep, staple for a control deck like this. We need to protect Niv, and it counters everything that it needs to. Brainstorm is crazy with Niv out. Pay 1 blue, draw 4 cards, deal 4 damage. This can just kind of kill a player on the spot once they have low life. If you're kind of manually storming your way through the list with Roaming Throne or Irma or Prodigy. Bolt Bend is another one of my very favorite cards in the list, along with Stubborn Denial. It's a Niv only card. It's a SWAT for 1 red. Again, a lot of targeted removal gets thrown at Niv. Just a great way for 1 red. It is totally dead pre-Niv. Offer, obviously a staple. Sometimes, actually a pretty decent amount of time, you can use it as a ritual to make 2 treasures to try and get into Niv early. Thunderclap is a card that I'm testing out right now just because things are getting a little more turbo-y. I'm finding that I'm having to cast Niv tapped out to not. So when you're tapped out with Niv, you really place a premium on free spells, digging, hanging, and we'll see. Sacking a mountain is a bit of a high cost. We are on more islands than mountains for days and oil. We'll talk in a second. But it's yeah, I have high hopes for it. I don't know, 3 damage to target Scuzz, target Hexings can be pretty important. Free Lightning Bolt. Submerge is a card I never leave home without. Awesome targeted removal, free spell. There's a lot of tropical islands. But Snapback, similarly, great free spell, great targeted removal game. Pyrokinesis is a lot similar to Snapback, just a free spell, but it actually kills. You can kill 2 2/2s at the same time. This is probably one of the best spot removal cards in the deck. Pact, we all know about. Important kind of little harmonious interaction in the deck is pacting when you don't have the mana to pay for it, and then stifling pact trigger and upkeep. Always very cute. Everyone always thinks you're dead. Bog Salvage is just free spell, but destroying, a mana vault or an unwinding clock stuff. Misdirection is awesome. Again, a lot of targeted spells come at Niv. Great in Stack Wars. Yeah, counter any counter spell by changing target to direction and fizzling it. Mindbreak Trap, Misstep, Gut Shot is free, and with Niv out, it's 2 damage. So you can any 2/2 by casting this and casting it, king and go. Yeah, Gut Shot and Park Sakashi by far the 2 best Gut Shot decks, or Niv and Gut Shot are the 2 best decks to run it. Yeah, it's always 2 damage. It's almost a free. Force of Will and Force of Negation. Now, Foil is a card that I took a little bit of convincing of Discord server to go on, but it will never leave the list again. It is awesome. It's a free counter spell if you have an island and another card in hand. So at present count, we're on Volcanic, Thundering Falls, Steam Vents, Snow-Covered Island, 2 more islands. 6 islands, actually. And when you've kind of been churning through your deck for a while and you're in the big Niv turn where everything is happening, Foil is live, there's also the awesome little interaction where you have days and foil in hand. You days returning an island to hand so that you. This actually helped me win a top 16 game last summer. Just I was able to go days foil on a con. Happen to get to the top 4. It was pretty fun, pretty cool little interaction. Flare of Duplication is another card I wasn't on at first, but I'm now a total believer. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 easily castable red creatures to sack to it. Obviously, you never want to cast Niv. Things have gone very bad, or if you're comboing off at the end of your deck and you need to remove Niv to deck yourself, you can flare Niv away and kill it. Yeah, flare is just so good. Copy a Necro, or copy a Naz, copy a Counterspell. Yeah, it's been great. I would definitely running it, even though our red creature count is perhaps some, and obviously we don't. It's not as good as Rock. Pierce, SWAT, two of the very best cards in the deck. Days is really awesome into Turbo, and it's also just a great gotcha. People tap out, or they are needing mana perfect all the way through. Kind of develop a good sense for that. Choke point Days can say, and then Commandeer. One of the very great spells in the deck. It's really good early to steal a Necro or not. So much of the deck is blue. Really easy to. So that's the instant speed interaction. It's a lot. Again, it has to be a lot so that when Niv lands, we have this sacred density of 3 and 1 mana spells to start digging and not. Okay, so speaking of not losing, how do we actually go about winning? The best win con, in my opinion, is Ophidian Eye. I think most Niv pilots would agree with this. Because it's instant speed, you can abuse AppNap or priority to make sure that your Niv triggers get on top of any. So the problem kind of with Curiosity, if you're casting Curiosity for the win on turn 4, all of your opponent's Ristic and Mystic triggers are resolved before your Niv triggers, kind of giving them a better chance to draw into. Whereas you play an Ophidian Eye, it's sandbag not only your win until it's safe to get on top of the stack, also if you can use AppNap to your advantage, as long as you're last or second to last in priority, you can get your Niv triggers above other people's triggers on Ristic, Fish, or sometimes Smothering Tithe. So abusing the stack and abusing priority with the Ophidian Eye and being able to sandbag until things are inevitable definitely makes this the best win. And then Curiosity is good for kind of fast win. Turn 3 Niv, turn 4, you know your window's open, you have a fierce in hand game. But honestly, I win the game just as often, if not more, through Harmonic Prodigy or roaming. They're way harder to interact with than Curiosity, and the card advantage provided by them very quickly means that you just kill someone on the stack with just a couple of spells, and you just lock the game down very quickly. Yeah, there are very few times where if you resolve a Prodigy or a Throne with mana up, that you won't just kind of squeeze and choke. And because they're easier to resolve than Curiosity, yeah, they tend to actually show up. And Irma, that just got spoiled, I think is going to be awesome, similar way, and can be curved into more easily than roaming kind of. Our other way, so we don't run, one important thing to note, there's no Time Twister. There's no Valakut Awakening. There are no reshufflers at all, which seems kind of risky. What if I only have 50 cards in my deck and my opponents still have a life or something? Game. Nice thing about this is that first off, our trigger doublers, which we just got a third one of, mean that you can always just stop your Curiosity by pointing something at yourself, by pointing at yourself, or at Niv, one of your creatures or anybody's creature. Stop the loop, play a doubler, play some mana, play the second doubler, and then those 30 cards in the deck are now 60 damage or 90 damage, whatever. Those are gone. What you can do instead is turn to the VV plan, which is draw your deck, flare Niv away, or remove Curiosity from Niv. And then you just spam all the spells in your deck until everyone dies through VV. You kind of start with these free spells like Snapback, Submerge, Pyrokinesis, play some of your rocks. At that point, VV will have enough mana so that you can cast your Harmonic Prodigy, your Roaming Throne. And again, even though you didn't have enough cards in deck to technically kill everyone with Curiosity or Ophidian Eye, it is very easy to do 60 or 80 or 100 damage there. So it's really nice to be able to, especially with the printing of VV, to be able to cut the looping card like Transmute and Valakut, because they felt very dead very often, and yeah, not being able to have to play around the number of cards left in our libraries. But I've played, I don't know, maybe 150 games, 180 games on Niv at this point, and it's never come up that I decked myself. So those are our win cons in Curiosity and Ophidian Eye, in the trigger doublers, and then in VV just storming off. VV is also an awesome alternative combo, which the list did not have prior to the printing of VV. You can have a very fast win now if you find a Christmas land hand of VV plus Curiosity or VV plus Ophidian. Put the Curiosity on VV, start casting your free spells, cast your free rocks, cast your Cataxian Probes and Rite of Flames and so on and so forth. And yeah, you draw 3 at a time off of VV Curiosity, and it can be pretty easy. Just kind of snowball from there, countering your own BS on top of the stack. And yeah, kind of working from there. A few cards that are currently on the sideboard, but they're often in the deck for me. One is Merchant Scroll. Even though it's sorcery, it finds any interaction in the deck, which can be important, and it also can find Whir of Invention. It's not an awesome plan, but sometimes you go turn 2 Merchant Scroll, it's turn 3 Whir of Invention, turn 4 Niv. Dragonologist is another card that gives Niv hexproof and dig 6 when it enters. That is kind of a staple in a lot of lists. It goes in and out for me, kind of depending on mood. Currently texting Hexing Squelcher. I'm not sure it's necessary for the list. Our spells being countered is often not a horrible problem, but I have seen it be relevant for me already, where the table kind of, at least in locals, because I have had a lot of tournament success and a high win rate with Niv, people kind of 3v1 Niv as soon as it resolves, knowing that if Niv sticks for even one turn cycle, they lose. So having Squelcher to kind of help me protect Niv a little bit has been good. I'm not sure if it'll stay in the list or not. It is fun to be playing control and have your spells say happy interactive. And so that's kind of a more general overview of Niv as it is here in the fall, almost spring of 2026. We've been putting up more and more tournament results. It seems like more and more people are picking the list up over the last couple months, which is really exciting. A lot of people have put so much time and thought into the list as it currently is. I definitely recommend coming and joining us on the Niv server. A lot of resources for new players. We have a lot of we have like lists of cards that we've considered and are currently running on, and justifications for why. There's some great primers from our community. People really like the Big Dragon. It is so much fun to play, and is totally unique card. It is its own win con. It is board wipe and an engine. It often outvalues and outdraws Heuristic Study or Mystic Remora in the mid game. It poses green creature decks or decks that care about creature combo. You're kind of a twisted sicko in the head and you enjoy control, and you enjoy decks that are commander centric, and you enjoy lists that run just a ton of off meta cards, then I think Niv is a great place to look for something fun and kind of underexplored in the current realm. And I hope you will come join us. And I've got a couple of tournaments coming up, hoping to play Niv in possibly. I'm kind of jumping back and forth between Jericho and Niv at the moment. They're both so fun and different, and play weird cards and play patterns that I personally really enjoy. These are both kind of decks that I think it's hard to get tired of because they present such weirdo states that get your heart rate going. And yeah, the first time you get into a 30 card or 40 card stack battle with Niv, kill an opponent at 30 life with a Thoracle on the stack, spending 3 mana, you never go back from there. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed the video. Check out the other videos on WZKD Games. A lot of great content and deck tech coming out. And come join us in Albuquerque on March 21st and 22nd for the 10K that's going. There's going to be a lot of highly rated players and vendors and all sorts of fun. So if you can make it out to Albuquerque, New Mexico, look forward to seeing you there. Thanks so much.